Okay, we're live. Hello and welcome. I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Ostara. At last, the moment has come. We are here. That equinox has finally taken place. And from here on out, at least until the fall, we are finally going to have more daylight hours than nighttime hours. So quite the relief there. I know we've all been kind of suffering from those doldrums of really the whole winter. It was just not a great time. Lots of stagnation, lots of dealing with stuff in in our closets, in our personal lives. I mean, the aftermath of last year's retrograde season. I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people at Blackbird's Brew, myself included, were really feeling it. So it's nice to be switching gears. Speaking of switching gears, I do hope that you are experiencing weather that, at least somewhat remotely resembles what spring is supposed to be. We woke up kind of chilly this morning, but fortunately, at least according to the computer, we've gone up to 50 degrees, which, that's perfectly acceptable for the beginning of spring. I did see a few very sad looking daffodils and some very, very sad looking grape hyacinths. They bloomed out before we had our most recent cold snap. So unfortunately, I think the frost did get those particular plants, but there are others. And I'm sure in the coming weeks, they'll start putting on a show and we can just start coming back to life. That is what it's all about, coming back to life. And definitely, I think I'm most definitely feeling that shift of the sun from Pisces into Aries, because I woke up this morning and it wasn't exactly a mood, but I definitely was feeling pretty salty. It's just like, nope, now's the time to get up, call a spade a spade, get up and go do something. We've got to get into motion. Go, 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 go. That's very much how it has felt. It has not been a good day for routine tasks. I did write some of the outlines for the videos next week, and it was pretty slow going because I am not in writing mode right now. I'm just in the mode of need to get up and be doing. And that's, very much the energy of spring. So I hope you're feeling it, and I hope you're feeling it more constructively than I have this morning. And if not, I'm sure in the coming weeks, we'll start getting into our modes. Speaking of which, tonight on the Gilded Group, I will be conducting a ritual for Ostara. Everyone in the group, you're very welcome to come. If you're not part of the group yet, there's a link to join us in the description box below. It'll take place in the altar channel. I'm going to get into there, start getting set up about 6:30 tonight, and then at 7:00 p.m. that's Central Time. That's when I will actually do the ritual. And again, you're very welcome to come. You're very welcome to take part, and just throwing that out there. I mean, we might as well start celebrating things together. It's a lot less lonely than doing things on our own, for sure. So, amongst other things, I want to share a few highlights from the True North EuroFaith newsletter. It came out a couple of days ago, and I decided to wait until today to really give you the highlights of it, just because, it's all about Ostara and, Ostara's today, and I figured, close enough. So Gandalf, as always, he's provided the community with some lovely links. He has a video of Stonehenge at dawn, the Call of the Old Gods, which is pagan folk music, a video about Ostara, then offering by Fawn, if you're familiar with that group, in honor of Idan. And then we have Welcoming Spring with Culming, and then Monkor, Ostara. Then we have a video about Easter, Christian or pagan, which I'm sure that's very educational and very useful for people who are newer on their path, or people who have some perhaps misgivings and kind of mixed feelings about making that transition from Christian to pagan. For those of us further on down the line, this is more information by way of review. Then after that, we have Proud Pagan American, Ohio Train Derailment, Wake Up Pagans. Well worth checking out. That's on Rumble. Then we have a recent video from Wiccan Conservative, otherwise known as Georgia Liberty, Bitchcraft 101. That was a Rumble video on her part. Then Gandalf very kindly highlighted my own video, Pagans Are Patriots. Appreciate that, Gandalf. And lastly of the videos, we have one from Sigrún Gregerson, the Pagan Prepper, Decorate for a Star with Me. It's a sweet little video. And the other day, she posted another video with her husband in it, and they were conducting a star ritual and really setting the example. So if you've never done a ritual on your own before, they provide you a really good, very simple, down-to-earth, easy to replicate kind of template. So if you're not sure what to do, just either show up for the Gilded Ritual or look at what Sigrún and her husband did, and you can just follow along with that. So, the first segment of the newsletter is about spring equinox, the season of renewal, and it just explains what it is and how equinox is marking the same amount of time of day and night, equal lengths as far as that goes. And just an acknowledgement that the season that from here on out we get more light, which yay! I think pretty much everybody, absolutely everybody, is ready for that. The next segment goes on to really focus on about how this is a season of renewal and rebirth, and how important that was to our ancestors. They, of course, were more vulnerable to the elements, although I dare say for many of us this past winter, we felt a lot more vulnerable to the elements, certainly more than we did perhaps in earlier periods of our lives, just because, it takes a lot of money to keep the house heated, even if you're living in a relatively small place. And, of course, that money has to come from somewhere. And so I think a lot of us were feeling the tension of the season in a way that perhaps we had not before. And so this renewal of the sun and this coming back to spring, that's really important. And I think it has additional importance for us this year. The next section is about an ancient and revered symbol. This is referring to the solar cross. The solar cross is, of course, the circle with equal armed cross in the center of it, and it represents the equinoxes and the solstices. And this, of course, informs our conception of the wheel of the year. Now, Gandalf mentioned an interesting way to explain this to newcomers. So he said, just like imagine that on this circle, the numbers on a clock, with the progress of the year being noted while going clockwise around the circle. 12 is marked the winter solstice, 3 is the spring equinox, 6 is the summer solstice, 9 is where we mark the autumn equinox. Imagine a line drawn from the point of the winter solstice to the exact opposite point of the circle, marking the summer solstice. Another line is drawn from the point marking the spring equinox to the exact opposite point for the autumn equinox. Notice a cross is formed within the circle. And from this, we see the symbol known as the sun wheel, or solar cross, as I call it. Some view the sun as being hung on the cross with its wheel, born or reborn during the winter solstice. The sun would be viewed as being more fully resurrected during the spring equinox for obvious reasons, because the sun is stronger, graduating, I suppose, perhaps from, infancy into, a kind of a state of childhood or adolescence. Visualizing the wheel of the year this way, various ancient peoples developed myths and religious practices around various gods associated with the sun. Some of these gods were said to be born of goddesses who became mothers while remaining virgins. These gods would die, then be resurrected through rejoicing because they have risen. So you'll see how this is another example of how Abrahamic traditions borrowed from pagan traditions and repurposed them for their own ends. Let's see. Next, he talks a little bit about the Great Mother, and particularly honoring the goddess Sybil and the god Attis, and they're, of course, coming from the Roman pantheon. Or, oh, no, I said wrong. Oh, no, the Romans did have a festival for her, but of course, this also involved the Greeks, because when did it not? And he does a pretty good job of showing other examples from pagan lore about these virgin mothers and resurrected sons. You have Sybil, also mentions Ishtar and Astarte. This is very much focused on the Mediterranean and, Near East areas where you would have these kind of motifs of, the Virgin Mother, the born son, the resurrected son, and all this and that. Let's see. Then, because I don't want to spoil the newsletter, I want you to sign up for it, which you can in the description box below. Everyone's linked. Then he has a brief passage about harmful errors and misrepresentations. And one of Gandalf's pet peeves, and I happen to share this with him, is conflating separate individual deities, saying that, they are just all the same. This is, as he rightly points out, this isn't just a modern phenomenon. The ancient Romans did that, and others have done that. And I think part of this is people do this out of a desire to try to simplify complexity. If, all the gods and goddesses of spring or of the winter or of anything else are essentially one and the same being, just known by different names, then, that's less for me to think about. Well, as we investigate lore, we find that's not really the case. These deities are quite different. They have very different interactions with different people. So it gets much harder the further you look into it to really say, oh, they're just one and the same, just, different names. Now, of course, there are some deities who are known by different names. For instance, the goddess Aphrodite and the goddess Venus I have yet to be persuaded that those are actually separate entities. Their energy to me feels very much the same. And really experiencing that energy once was enough. Didn't get on with them, and they didn't like me. But it was enough to persuade me that essentially I was in the presence of the same being. And these are conclusions that every practitioner is really going to have to arrive at for themselves. The next segment is about the Temple of Fraud, and this refers to what happened after the death of Alexander the Great. He didn't have any direct heir, and so his empire was divided amongst several generals, and they had their own mini empires. And of course, there were wars, and everyone wanted control, and no one was ultimately successful in getting that control. I mean, no, you're either Alexander the Great or you're not, and his generals definitely were not him. And he tells about how one of the generals, Seleucus I Nicator, he founded what became known as the Seleucid dynasty. It was all over the Near East and Asian provinces and territories. And one of the things that they did was they put up a temple outside of Jerusalem that was dedicated to Aphrodite. And that's how some of the conflation between Aphrodite, Venus, Ishtar, Astarte, and Nana really started to get kind of muddled and confused. They don't have anything else really in common, but there it was. And of course, this was also in the wake of an era in which there was a process of Hellenization, or essentially that where you were conquered by the Greek army, they would essentially try to make over your society into being Grecian, or as similar to it as possible. So you can see that there were political reasons for this overlay. Isn't there always some stupid political reason for why something is going on? As if we don't have a easy enough time making up difficulties without that. Next section is about the rejuvenating one, and this is focusing on the goddess Idun. She's the one who had the keeping of the apples that the gods would partake of, and that kept them strong and youthful. And during one of the myths, when she was, spirited away by a Jotun, the gods and goddesses, they started to age, they started to decay. And it was only when she was returned that their strength was really renewed, because she wasn't just the apples themselves. Part of Idun is what she has in her keeping is that strength and that vigor. Simply being around her, having her, woven into the fabric of things, helps maintain that strength. And so it's very important that we honor her at this time of year, because she's essentially sustaining the earth. Let's see. Next section, Goddess of Spring's Triumphant Renewal. This takes us to the Anglo-Saxon realm with the goddess Herthe. I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's Hrethhe, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. But she was a goddess of hearth and home. I wasn't familiar with her name before now, so I was glad to learn that. Her time of being honored is really in the spring, and her name means victory. And of course, spring returning after winter is definitely a victory, particularly for agricultural societies. Next, we have the goddess of the dawn. And this, of course, refers to Ostara herself. Now, I would like to point out that Ostara is also a goddess that is strongly associated with the goddess Idun. In my Germanic heathenry book, it said that the goddess Ostara is married to the god that they call Bragi. Well, that's like the Norse Bragi. So from that and other instances in their lore, I'm thinking, okay, these are different names for the same woman. I don't know if Gandalf would agree with me or concur with my conclusion, but that's the conclusion I've come to. So do your own research or come at your own conclusions. It gives a little bit of history about her. The different permutations of her names throughout different time periods of history, a lot of the meanings of the names associated with the East, the Eastern one, the dawning of the sun, and also with the dawning of spring, particularly in Western Germany. Then Gandalf brought up how Jacob Grimm, in his Teutonic mythology, writes that the Germanic peoples worship this goddess Ostoro or Ostara as the divinity of the radiant dawn that brings the joy and the blessings of spring. And then white-clad women would appear at dawn, and bonfires were lit the moment the sun rose. That would be a nice tradition, actually, to revive. I think that'd be great. Then we go over to Sweden. and how the king, according to the Yngling saga, would take on his role as high priest at this time for the Equinox festivals. He would go to the temple of Uppsala, and then there would be offerings made to Ostara, and as well as feasts and all other sorts of things. So there's a lot of weaving, as no matter whether you're looking at Southern European traditions or Northern European traditions. This is an important time of year for all of us. Next section explains about the meaning of the name True North, EuroFaith. And of course, True North refers to being able to find the right direction or your true course. And EuroFaith refers to essentially the religions and traditions of pagan Eurofolk ancestors that have now been revived and practiced. So that's the short explanation. And then we also have a few writings. This is a poem to a done right here that was written by Gandalf Freyasson. Sign up for his newsletter to read and complete. Then there's unfortunately an announcement of someone's passing. Longtime old friend in the Columbus pagan community with whom we spent many an hour of fellowship, Lord Shadow passed from this realm February 27th, 2023. Shadow and I participated in many joint rituals and celebrations. Gardnerian, Shadow taught many in classes and in private lessons, led many a coven he helped form, and for a time had his own local shop. He was among those we really missed being able to see in person after we moved to Michigan. I may be quietly bidding him a sad farewell, but I find myself feeling grateful for the friendship we shared and actually looking forward to seeing him again, along with many others, when it is finally my turn to cross the Rainbow Bridge. I share a notice from a friend and one of Shadow's many students who posted this on our Facebook group page, and that's from Gandalf. And it's a simple announcement of Lord Shadow's death. And it's always sad to hear about the loss of an elder. And we have many people in Blackbird's Brew who right now are facing the imminent departure of cherished family members. And of course, our thoughts and our sympathies are with them. It is a comfort to know that, we will in turn be reunited with our loved ones. We will see them again, even if it's not in this incarnation. But it's an important reminder to be of supporting, because it must be very difficult to lose people at this time of year. The world is just coming back to life, and then someone's life ends, and it just feels out of kilter. And I can see how that could, in addition to, just the emotional pangs of it, just feeling that spiritual incongruity that would be a bit difficult to bear, especially with the world in so much upheaving. Then, in addition to Shadow's passing, Gandalf learned another old friend from the Columbus pagan community, Kim Parlour, passed over a few weeks earlier on February 9th. A veteran and former Marine, Kim is survived by his wife, Sophia Nakia. I was able to participate in many gatherings and rituals with Kim and Sophia. I enjoyed many a lively conversation with Kim. So let's all be thinking of Gandalf and of the people who he've lost. Then we have another Ostara blessing from Gandalf, again, to read. You will need to sign up for his email. And of course, his email is again mentioned in the description box below. And then he very kindly shares the link to join Blackbird's Brew. He's been very faithful about that. Blackbird's Brew, we're trying, all of us pagan content creators, to make that a place where pagans can really gather and to start networking and start hopefully making friends and having more interesting conversations, because this internet culture of post and run or just talking at people, I'm so over it. I'm just so over it. Then we have a Blessing of the Seeds poem, and this one was written by Rowana Seymour, who is a druid, and that does it for the True stream. There we go. Okay, I think I've got my tools situated. So I just wanted to share what Gandalf's been up to, because he works very hard, and Gandalf's been struggling with a lot of health issues recently. And of course, any kind of undertaking, whether it's a newsletter or a blog or a video channel like this, the preparation behind the scenes takes an absolutely ungodly amount of time. I mean, until you do it, you simply would not believe what's involved. Even if you're doing fairly simple and straightforward things, it's a lot of commitment of time, a lot of mental and emotional energy for sure. And so anyone who takes that on, you have to really respect them. And of course, with Gandalf, he's in his 70s now. He doesn't have as much energy as he used to. He's always dealing with health problems. The fact that he is faithfully putting out this newsletter, season in, season out, regardless of anything. I think that's something that's really admirable. I mean, may we all be so devoted to our own responsibilities when we're at that age. So now to finish up, just a few thoughts about really seizing this season, because as I mentioned earlier in this stream, I came onto the scene this morning. I woke up and I felt kind of out of sorts, that what I needed to get done today wasn't what I felt like doing. And I just felt, kind of disheveled, not in my appearance so much, but just disheveled in my spirit, that things just aren't really aligned very well. And, I don't know why. I mean, the house is in order. Everything is, everything that I need to do is scheduled. I mean, had a really solid plan, but I'm telling you right now, I mean, the energy was not there. And I think it is all that hectic Aryan energy, coming onto the scene and really burning away the rest of the Piscean energy that we just came out of. It is making itself felt. It's like, it's time to stop daydreaming. It is time to start doing. But in addition to that, what I really hope to capture is just that sense of anticipation, that sense of hope. That's what I really think needs to be renewed more than anything else. Just having a sense of hope, having a little bit of optimism. And I'm not talking about a fool's optimism or a fool's hope. I mean, we don't need that kind of mental tanglement right now. But we need to see room for genuine causes for hope where they exist and where they can actually do us the most good. We need that. We cannot run on empty. And that's really how I have felt all through winter, that no matter what I did, no matter what kind of meditations I was doing, no matter how well organized I was or how far I got ahead on my duties, I have just felt absolutely drained. And even when I took time to recharge, it didn't really seem to have its effect. So I'm thinking about that energy drain. I'm thinking about, how much time do we really need to be spending on this online world? And when we are on the online world, shouldn't we have greater purpose for it? Maybe we would lessen the hold of some of the insanity if we were not here quite so often. So, I am throughout this year and through next year, there's a few video series that I'm starting to wrap up. I need to get through all of the Wicca teaching series because I need to fulfill that goal. That's something that I made a vow that I would get done, that, no matter what, there would be this body of work that could actually be useful to someone else. But I am also thinking about other things because, while I am doing what I can to create pagan community online, ultimately the goal is to get offline. And, let's face it, I think one of the things we are constantly seeing is that people are just not engaged across the board. It doesn't matter if you're a small creator or if you are a large creator. People are not hitting the like buttons. They're not leaving comments. They're not interacting in live chats as much. There's a lot of things that people are not willing to do. And I think a lot of it has to do with just how what goes on the internet has started to have real world consequences for people. And of course, no one likes that for very good reasons. And I don't know why my camera just unplugged. I've been having troubles with this one. I am sorry. Let me briefly go to my settings and see what we can do. I swear, I mean, this would do this right when I was in the middle of, right as I was in the middle of everything else. Okay. No, the microphone's not supposed to be there. Okay. Alrighty. Let's see. Oh, well, I guess the camera's not going to work, so I'll start wrapping this up. Please don't mind, the black screen. I guess I can't rely on that camera anymore. I'm not sure where I was in the train of thought. This really did throw me off, which, thank you ever so much. I guess that's what I get talking about, how the need to detach from this digital world. Yes, that reminds me. People are getting less engaged. They don't want to be as engaged because they're afraid that someone will find out that they made a comment. And of course, everything lives forever. You can make a tweet, you can delete it, but someone might have screenshotted it. People are just so fearful of consequences, and because they haven't really latched onto the idea that you need to do what you think is right, regardless of the consequences. And they, haven't really adjusted their minds that, maybe there are times in life where you find yourself in a position where you have to make sacrifices in order to do the right thing. I think people are very much withdrawing back into their shells, and, that concerns me. So, I wonder, is the is the pursuit and the desire to create online community in hopes of inspiring in-person community. Will that ultimately be successful? Is this the most productive use of my time? Should I be taking different tactics? I've been reflecting on all of these things. And of course, I've been thinking about, what can be done to make things fun again, because I am so bored with the misery. I'm so bored with the latest disaster. I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I don't care what just happened, just because there's going to be something stupid that happens tomorrow. And this is the thing that happens over and over and over again. I've reached the end of me being able to be as passionately caring about the events of the world, just because there's so much stupidity going on and people are not reacting properly. They are not standing up for themselves, not politically, not religiously, not just even on a personal level. I mean, it's shocking when I hear the way some people get bullied around in their lives. And for what? I mean, really, for what? That's a question that keeps coming back in my mind. Why you let someone else run roughshod over you when simply asserting your personality and having some boundaries with people would be enough to prevent that? But people seem to be stuck in that space. So I'm thinking a lot. I'm reevaluating a lot of things, and we'll see what things go forward, because one thing's for sure, I can't quit. I mean, changing tactics is one thing, but you can't leave the battlefield unfought, and you can't let go of a goal without at least making an honest effort. So I am thinking about things. I'm trying to figure out where people are, and I'm trying to figure out what best to do about it. And I think that's what everyone is trying to do. Everyone is trying to create community for whatever reason, is just trying to figure out what is actually going to inspire people. What are they needing? And what can you do to build people up to where they can start generating their own motivations, to where they become more self-sufficient, and they're coming not so much out of a desperate need, but out of a genuine desire simply to be amongst the like-minded. What's it going to take for people to be reinvested in the idea of community? And is that something we can even achieve through the digital space? Or is the digital space ultimately going to be the place where we make the case, and then, and then once we all get censored into oblivion, then we just perhaps turn more attention to the world we're immediately in? I don't know. It sure would be interesting to have a companion in this particular discussion. So leave your thoughts for me in the comments. Share your own Ostara plans for me. Please be sure to give us a visit on Gilded. Gandalf is really looking forward for some reactions and reflections upon his own commentary. He is looking for feedback, so please visit him in his channel on Blackbird's Brew, and just share your thoughts. Share what you think about it. I'm sure he'd be happy to hear from you. But given between having said kind of what I wanted to say and being a bit rambly today, I mean, you can tell I'm feeling scattered with my energy. And the fact that the camera's not working, I think I better stop it here. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it if you made it all the way through. Come see us on Gilded, and until next time, bye-bye.